Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Swisa Cohen, and on today's episode of the Israeli Bond on hmTv, I am hosting a giant in the Jewish community world. My guest, Rick Lewis, is the CEO of both Mid-Island YJCC and the Suffolk YJCC. With an MBA from Adelphi and a career spanning 40 years, Rick has earned a reputation as a turnaround specialist, the leader you call to transform struggling organizations into thriving communities. But after October 7th, Rick realized that professional excellence wasn't enough. Today, we'll talk about how this veteran executive found a new unapologetic voice. So Rick, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming here today. And Rick, you've been in the JCC world for over 40 years now, literally from camp counselor to dual CEO that you're today.
Right.
You're also a second generation in the JCC world. You grew up on the values of a big tent, right? A place for everyone. On October 6th, 2023, did you imagine a time would come when the JCC would have to stop being neutral and take such a definitive stand?
Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined. I always took the road of we needed to support Israel. There were always Israeli flags. There's always an Israeli feel in the building. But there's a big difference between representing Israel and supporting everything that's going on in Israel. And that changed drastically on October 7th.
So people that you've worked with for years told me that you're not the same person as you used to be. So can you understand why?
I'd love to know who you spoke to, but I think that like many people, October 7th changed me, and October 8th changed me even more to realize, and the way everybody says it is, if not us, who, and if not now, when. I really woke up and with the help of my team running the Mid-Island YJCC and the Suffolk YJCC realized that we have to take a hard stance on what's going on in Israel, that it's not fair, it's not right, and if we don't educate America, nobody's going to. So we set out to make sure that everybody knew what was going on.
So basically, we came here a month and a half before October 7th. So basically, all that I know from Mid-Island Y and Suffolk Y, and generally from Long Island, is mostly after October 7th. So can you take me back to October 6th or the days before? How did it look like back then, and how did it change today?
So when you, like I said earlier, when you walk into either JCC, there were Israeli flags, but there was never that strong sense of we support Israel and we want to make sure that everybody knows what's going on in Israel. It were just flags and feeling that hung in the air, but anybody that felt differently would never have a reason to say, I don't belong here, I don't feel comfortable here. Today, it's different. We talk more about it, we educate more about it. We have two very, very large walls in front of both buildings that since October 8th have hung pictures of all of the hostages and the people that have passed and all the activity that's been going on in Israel. So today I could understand if somebody said to me, I don't support your ideals, I'm not comfortable being a member here. I will tell you very proudly that has not happened, but the feeling when you walk in the JCC is different. And truthfully, I don't care. If you don't believe in our ideals and you don't want to support Israel with us, there's plenty of other places for you to go.
So what was the place of Israel at the JCC before October 7th?
It was not really discussed. Israel Independence Day certainly was acknowledged in a small way. Every Jewish holiday is, but none directly relating to Israel. But we touched upon it, but didn't pounce on it. And again today it's a different, very different feel. We pounce all over it. And again, for those that disagree, it's fine. You're allowed to disagree. I don't agree with you, but you don't need to be here.
So it's interesting that you said that because, as I mentioned before, you're an MBA. I believe that you're a person of numbers. As I said before, turnaround specialist. Like you're coming to an organization and making it thrive. So I guess you used to worry about every membership cancellation. And when did you realize that losing a member over a pro-Israeli stance is a price that you are willing to take?
On the morning of October 8th, by midway through the day when we were getting details on what was happening, it was not acceptable for us to hide behind the details, knowing full well that the reality of what was happening in Israel was not going to be reflected to anybody in New York, America, the diaspora, whatever you might want to call it. We weren't going to get the accurate information. If we weren't part of getting the accurate information out there, it was never going to get spread appropriately. So we did everything we could to make sure that people knew and understood and were paying attention until the very, very last hostage was brought home.
So you felt that the JCC has like a place in the community that should take a stand more than every other business Jewish owned.
Well, when I'm in a room with Jewish business owners, and I am quite often, I never give up the opportunity to remind everybody that you're a Jewish business owner and you should be supporting Israel. And you should be reminding everybody back then that there are hostages being held against their will and families being torn apart and people being murdered. And some heard me and some didn't, but I never shied away from an opportunity to remind people what they should be doing. And again, people make their own decisions. Some people might have had the feeling that they didn't want to bring that into their business and risk losing people. I made the decision, and I am a numbers person, that if our membership went down a few membership categories or 2%, 3%, 5%, that was a small price to pay for sticking up for our homeland.
And you said that it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. It really didn't happen. I would say, I'm not going to say zero, but if we lost 3 families in the process, that was probably a lot. And some of them wasn't our stance on Israel. Some of it was the concern for having their children in a Jewish organization for the potential threats and violence that could happen. And I'll say the same thing. There have been no threats or violence. And I don't put that out there as a challenge to anybody, because you're not supposed to kind of say those things. But we've been wonderful. We're lucky on Long Island, lucky at the 2 JCCs, but we are well protected. Anybody that's in one of my buildings, I go to bed at night knowing that they're well protected.
I agree, and I'm glad that you said that, and we'll tap into that later on. But this is it leads me to another topic that you said before, that right on October 8th, you started the fight for bringing the hostages back. And actually, I can tell it firsthand. I guess it was October 8th or October 9th. You had this giant wall with all the hostages' pictures on it. It was, as you said, it was frightening days. We didn't know what would happen in America. But loud and proud, you put the hostages there in order to fight and to say, we want them back home. And this is the place to mention also Omer Neutra.
Exactly.
So Omer Neutra and the Neutra family in general, they're from Long Island. Omer Neutra, I will say really in a nutshell, born and raised in Long Island for an Israeli family, the Neutra family. He volunteered to drift into the to IDF, and he served as a commander officer of a tank unit on the morning of October 7th when he was kidnapped by Hamas to Gaza. Later on, we realized that he was murdered in captivity. And all this time that he was there, the JCC had fought to bring him back home, first for him alive, and then when we realized he's dead, for his body to come back home. And I really feel that the JCC had, stood at the front line of this fight. And I wonder if this is one of the reasons that the JCC took such a strong stand because Omer Neutra was part of this community.
So I will tell you on, and again, October 8th, 9th, 10th, I don't remember exactly what the timeline was because there was so many things going on at that point. A couple of things. First of all, we did have an emergency scheduled board meeting so that the board would understand the direction I was choosing to go in, and I got no pushback at all. So I will tell you, it was very well supported by our staff and the board of both JCCs. The second thing is at the very beginning of all this, I didn't realize Omer Neutra was a hostage at that time. The connection to the JCC, that the family was local. A lot of this was put into place prior to. But certainly it became that much more significant and that much more important to think at that time that they were holding one of our own. Literally somebody who grew up at the Y, played basketball in the gym, and had his hands in everything in and around Plainview and New York. That just made it a no-brainer. And as much as I wish he was home with us and enjoying the facilities still, it's very nice to know that the street right in front of them in LNYJCC is named Captain Omer Neutra Way. And we have signs in front reflecting it. If you look at our return envelopes right now, you'll see that not only does it say Minetto Hill Road, but it says Captain Omer Neutra Way on the envelope.
Wow.
So we do everything we possibly can to support his memory, make sure people know who he is, who he was, and forever. We will not forget.
Yeah, I agree. And I really want to recognize that because every march of the Run for Their Lives in Long Island is ended at the JCC, right outside the JCC, and all the rallies for up until the 100 days, and then 100 days, 200 days. I think we also had 800 days, sadly enough to say, and the JCC was a very a crucial part in that. And when we talked before, I wonder how you see the place of the JCC in the Jewish community, in leading the Jewish community in that stance, and how does it different from all the other Jewish organizations around the island? Many synagogues, different Jewish places around Long Island. How do you see that? The JCC place within this in the community,
in the place in the community.
Yeah.
I know. So I will say that first of all, it's very, very important that there be as many Jewish organizations everywhere, but certainly throughout Long Island, as we can keep healthy and alive and active, so that everybody has a different comfort level or different way to touch their Judaism, whether it be a synagogue or some club or some meeting in somebody's house or the JCC, whatever it might be. What the JCC offers is just a much broader breadth of services and opportunities for people to come in and be part of the Jewish community. We don't offer religious opportunities. That's to happen in synagogues, and that's what synagogues are for. But everything else around Judaism we offer, and we offer it bigger, wider, and we have a larger catchment area for people to come. And that's also one of the nice ideas about having 5 JCCs on Long Island. We work very well together. We just want everybody to have a place of comfort to come and feel welcome. The JCC is the center of that. And we bring all of those smaller Jewish organizations together for the purpose of, again, keeping everybody healthy. We're not competitors. We have to not look at each other as competitors. People can belong to multiple organizations. And the reality is sometimes their budget only requires them to choose one. But as long as they choose one and don't choose nothing, then we're a better community for it.
So glad that you said that. Which leads me to the last topic to this episode, because I guess we're going to have another one, which is the Jewish Coalition of Long Island. So you've been a founding member of the Jewish Coalition 2 years ago, that was founded 2 years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and what do you think is the role of this coalition, and why it is so important?
I'm going to repeat a lot of what you just heard, but I will say that I'm very proud to be a founding member of the Long Island Jewish Coalition. It's a very, very important organization on Long Island. And it was born from a very good friend and colleague that I jumped on the team with and supported. The most important part of it was when October 8th happened, We were all floundering and didn't know what to do. The leaders of these organizations didn't know each other. It wasn't easy to just pick up the phone and say, can you do this? Do you know this person? How can we get together? What that allowed us to do was come together, unfortunately born out of crisis, but come together, get to know each other, and figure out the roadmap for the future. The future is a very, very long time, but right now we're in a position 2 years later where immediate phone calls happen. We get together immediately. At the drop of a hat, we can have 25 of the leaders of the largest Jewish organizations touching Long Island, because they're not all on Long Island, but they all touch Long Island, together on a phone to figure out how we move forward. We do a conference once a year so that we can bring those leaders together. Some of it is educating them, and some of it is just networking them. Presidents of temples should know each other. Rabbis should all know each other.
But why? Why is it so important?
Because if, again, we work together, we grow the Jewish community together. If we divide ourselves up, we just diminish the Jewish community. Everybody works together better as a team. Numbers speak. Rallies don't work when you have 10 people come. Rallies work when you have 10,000 people come. That sends a message to the world.
I definitely agree. Yes, but so I need to say that listening to your journey of this big tent and as a professional leader, that you were willing to, in a way, rock the boat. You haven't said that it was that much of rocking the boat, but it was in a way rock the boat in terms of accepting if members would no longer want to be part of the JCC. And this is a very profound, anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm gonna stop now this episode, and we're gonna start a part 2 of our podcast.
Okay.
In order to jump more thoroughly into more emerging topics like what's the situation today in the Jewish world, Long Island, but also in the entire world, anti-Semitism, and how the JCC is fighting it today. What are the tools? What are the events? So with that, I'm closing this episode, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Israeli Bond on hmTV. I appreciate my guest, Rick Lewis, for this fascinating conversation. This is only the part 1 of the conversation, so stay tuned to part 2. And if you enjoyed exploring the information, history, and stories of today's conversation, be sure to check out our other podcast here on hmTV. Please subscribe, share, and stay connected for more engaging conversations. And until next time, take care and be well.